What Are We Doing Here podcast, hosted by Josh Dunn.
I haven't turned the fucking aircon on because it's hot as shit. It is. I guess we just started now.
Welcome to the What Are We Doing Here podcast.
Hosted by Josh Dunn. What are we doing here?
What are we doing?
You know what? It's
Josh Dunn.
what is time?
This is the What Are We Doing Here podcast.
That's the one. Hello, Sarah.
Your intros are way too long.
It only goes for a minute and a half. I think it's
too
like
long, bro. You need to cut that.
I never. I think I might take the burp out because I really hope that wasn't me burping to a microphone, but I know it was.
Was it you burping?
I think so.
Cool.
Introduction. Let's get it. We got 1 hour to unpack 30 years.
30 years. I'm not quite 30, Josh.
You look it. I'm kidding.
You're amazing.
City miles.
All right.
Go. Go. You talk. I'll move the chair out of the way.
Okay. All right. So, where can we even start? Like, are we going to start at childhood, or are we going to start like?
No, it's like talk about you. What do you do?
All right. So, I'm a yoga and meditation teacher here in Canberra.
Yep.
I'm also a therapeutic yoni massage trainee.
And what is that for people who don't know?
So that's vagina massage. So it's done in like a healing setting though. We're also trained in lingam massage, which is obviously penis
Dick
massage as
massage.
well. Yes,
I think
Josh.
guys have got that
Thanks-
fairly
thanks
covered
for-
though. We can massage.
I would really debate that with you.
We can massage a dick.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure if we were to go to like if you go to Thailand where they're like lady boys, you're gonna get the best dick massage of your life. Because they know.
Okay, so we're talking about this from like a therapeutic sense, so not trying to reach climax or like enjoy, like it's not like a super pleasurable experience.
Just like a little comfortable. Can you massage my dick? All right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So before we get into it, we got merch now for the podcast. We have Buy Me a Coffee. So go buy me a coffee. Don't be bums. Coming from the bum, I guess. You have to do the shout outs at the start.
I love it, Josh.
And just go listen on something, whatever you want to listen to. Other than that, that's all I got to say. What got you into this? What
What got
started
me into yoga?
doing it? We'll
Interesting.
start from now and we'll work our way back.
Okay, so I feel like we need to like go a little bit like backwards first before we can like get to
Okay.
right now.
Start it
okay. Okay, cool. So we will start somewhere in the middle, I think. So this is like after you and I had a really long-term friendship. I was well and truly off the rails, and we can sort of like go back to that
Yep.
in a little while. But I got married really young. I had my first when I was 21 years old. And everything seemed fine. But of course that's a pretty big thing to wear, I think, when you're that young and you're still trying to decide like who you are and what your story and what your path is.
Yeah.
Anyway, then I went on to have twins. So they're 4 years old now. And it wasn't until after the twins were born that I developed a really severe anxiety disorder.
Yep.
And like when I say severe, it was like I couldn't walk out of the house. I couldn't drive a car. Like I could not function at all. So I was having 6 or 7 panic attacks a day. Everything was terrifying. You know, I was sitting on this level of fear that was almost completely impossible to navigate.
Yep.
And then you add 3 children on top of that and a husband that you're not in love with, and, you know, the marriage is breaking down, and, well, you have a shitstorm to sit with, right? So not only was I not able to escape externally, but internally it was just like this huge battle. And it was actually my psychologist that said to me, you know, I think you need to find yoga and find meditation, and you need to look for these things that once brought you some sort of joy, and you need to start small and work your way back up. And it was super funny. Like the very next day after this appointment, I was driven past this yoga studio in Ford, which I'm still teaching at to this day. And it was just like straight in front of my face, like this.
There it is.
And I was like,
That's the one.
okay, that's the sign. So I went and did my first yoga class there, and I was terrified. Like I remember walking in and like I was shaking and I was scared and I wanted to run. And anyone that has anxiety, like I know you've had your own battles, Josh, it's like that intense need to run or flee.
It's a lot.
Always.
So this was as a student, yeah.
Correct,
So this is well before
correct.
this,
Yeah. So I'd always practiced yoga on and off. Like I've always been a really active person. I'd dabbled in meditation, but like many people, you start it and it feels shit, so you stop.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's right.
you just don't go back. And I walked into this yoga class, and like I will just never forget how much it changed my life. And it sounds like super cliche, but I like moved my body in this way, and I like felt my breath, and I connected to my thoughts. And at the end of it, I just cried, like just sobbed like this.
Yeah, right. Getting it all out.
Getting it all out. And I feel like now as like a practitioner myself, like I've seen that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And I don't think that you can hold the space for others unless you've held the space for yourself. Like it's fraudulent, I believe. You know, you can't stand up there and tell someone to live a certain way if you yourself haven't walked in that path.
Yeah.
So after that, I was just like, this is my purpose. You know, there was something greater than me. Like, it doesn't really matter what you believe in, but something far bigger than me that was like, this is for you. Like, this is of you. And I went and did my 350-hour yoga teacher training, and it was epic. Like, it was the best thing I ever did.
What does that consist of? What do you do?
So it was an intense training for 12 months. It was like over 100 hours of practical training, lots of essays, lots of studying. Like, it's a lot of philosophy as well. So you're understanding like the different lineages. And interweaved in that was obviously my meditation training as well. So I can teach both.
Yeah.
And then you basically just go on to teach, and you sit underneath. Well, I sat underneath some incredible mentors that are still like my mentors to this day. And I'm still there now.
So what is the progression from that to what you're doing now? Is it just a natural progression?
As in the yoni massage?
Does it go from like a spiritual, you know, it's sort of just like a refined version of it. You know what I mean?
Totally,
Do you know when you learn how to drive a car and then you sort of hone it in and you start, that is such a stupid way to put it. And as soon as it left my mouth, I was like, you idiot. But it's just adding to the wheelhouse of what you know, and it's just refining it into
I think what I found was going on is that I was attracting women that were on their own healing journeys, right? And I love teaching men equally as I do women, but I think like that feminine energy, like that connection is something that's super special between women, and we've kind of lost that. Like I know for myself, like I had huge mother wounds, I had huge sister wounds, and like we can go into that a little bit later. But working with women felt much more natural to me. And then obviously integrating all the things that happened to me in my past, and then like during my marriage and where I'm at now, it was just like another thing from the universe. Like it flowed very effortlessly to me, to something to do.
Yeah, you definitely have to though, right? It's like you said, it's like, how do you not go through something and then try and tell other people to do it? Like there has to be like an element of
empathy.
Yeah, it's not only empathy. Empathy can be, you can still have it, even though if you haven't been through it. There's a lot of empathetic people out there who don't fully understand certain things. But I think it just adds to it a little bit, because you can have empathy without the anxiety attached to it. And I think that level of anxiety that you went through contributes to a better teacher, because one, you know how to regulate your own self and your own feelings.
Debatable at times, for sure.
But aren't we all? And then that gives you a little bit more insight. I think it's just like, you know, if somebody comes to you and their level of anxiety is much higher than yours, or they don't know how to regulate, then like if you haven't been through it, you can't really walk somebody down from that ledge. So
yeah, no, I completely agree.
Childhood. So what all contributed to this? How did
we need 6 hours. No.
We need forever. We've both got a lot of shit to...
Josh and I have talked about this in the past, and we've also known each other for a really long time. So Josh knows some things. So I think, and I spoke about this a little while ago on a podcast when I was asked a similar question. And I think my past is like one I see of like darkness, but also like great growth and understanding. Like I am thankful for all of those things that led to this point, because again, super cliche, but if it wasn't for those things, well, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you about this. So going back into my childhood and I guess like early adolescent years, and I know you share similar things with this, Josh, but, you know, in the first 7 years of your life, you are given this understanding of what love is, you know, like from your parents, right? And like your siblings and the people around you, your teachers, and like children at that age are these giant sponges, you know, they're trying to navigate the world, and they're these like open vessels that are just like, teach me, you know. And it's not that my parents got it wrong, like it's not, I don't believe any parents get it wrong, like they're literally doing the best that they possibly can with what they know. And I used to hold a lot of remorse and anger towards my parents, and now it's just like, I totally get it. And I don't know if that's me now being a parent or just having like that deeper understanding of myself. But yeah, my parents were very, very emotionally unavailable. You know, they were in a marriage that was really shitty for the both of them. My dad was never there. My mum was, you know, she was dealing with her own shit all of the time. Nice, Josh.
Don't have vibrating things on a wood table.
Anyway, and so I guess the way that I received love and found love was through acting out. You know, my parents were very away with themselves until they weren't, and it was usually when I was doing something wrong, you know. But to me, it was like, even in those moments of doing something wrong, I would have the attention on me. And how that manifests later in life is that you believe that that is the way to get love.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I think it's not even just love. You so for me, it was like, I think there's like it's very instilled on you in everybody from very young that there's that pattern of life where you go through school and you find your partner or whatever, and then you finish school and you get married, and then you move out and you have kids, and it's very forced upon fucking everybody. So it's very hard to wash that away, especially when you do get to that age and you don't want it. So then it's, once again, you start doing, everything has to be fucking over the top. I don't know about you, but with me, it's like, even still now, it's about trying to go, even though I can direct it into such a positive thing, it's all or nothing. And it was just like, I think that was from...
It's usually a coping strategy of someone that's had trauma.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just, you just need a bit of direction to point it.
Totally.
So like you, it's like you learn to, it's lashing out, I guess, because you get attention, and the more negative you lash out, the more attention you get. So it's that balls to the wall where you don't think about consequences.
Totally.
You don't think about, you know, who you're going to hurt or whatever. You just want that bit of acknowledgement.
I was very good at that.
Very good.
I feel like there would definitely be some people listening to this that were like, oh yeah.
Yeah, but fuck that.
We remember that girl.
Yeah, like I still get that a lot. Like I still get fucking, like I was gone for a while, and I come back straight to where I left off. You know what I mean? And it's a very hard thing to wash away. I think my issue with it was it was very hard hearing people telling me about who I used to be when they haven't changed themselves. Like they've done no soul searching whatsoever. And they go, but you used to do this. And you're like, I don't do that now.
Yeah.
And it's a very hard thing to wash away. And I think it stops your own personal growth, because you're held to what you were rather than what you are.
People love to tell a story. You know, we like hold on to these stories because they kind of form our identities as well, you know. I held on to that story for a really long time, and I held a lot of guilt, you know. Yeah, like I did some really interesting things. And I think that's what like
what?
Shut up.
What did you do?
I think that's what drew me to Josh as well. Like when I very first met Josh, when I was like this little itty bitty 18-year-old, and I remember one of my girlfriends was just like, okay, talk to any boy at this party. They're all super amazing. They're really nice guys. But there is this guy, Josh Dunn, and do not talk to him. Like, just do not. And I walked into this house, and like, I feel it was a dress-up party.
It was my birthday.
And Josh just like comes screeching down this like staircase, just like the noisiest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, I understand this guy. Like, he makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like, and Josh and I have spoken about this, like these trauma wounds can often be like what draws people together, which can also be super, super toxic as well, you know, in the relationship world as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's like if once again, I think it all comes with like purpose and direction. I think at that stage when we met, like I was very damaged by that stage. And I don't like using the word damage because it implies it's, you know, it can't be fixed or you know what I mean. But I guess for lack of a better word, that's what it was. I think my parents just broke up. I split with like my first long-term girlfriend, and like once again, it's how
What's the plot? Totally.
how do you cope? You just you go out and you be loud and you surround yourself with people.
So lots of attention.
Not necessarily the right people. And once again, if you're the loudest person in the room, you're going to draw attention, and I think that just fills that void. So you didn't really talk much about getting, like, what happens. So like we went through similar things. So I guess
we did go through similar things. Look, and I think this is sort of what is like another reason that's led me into this work. Like I used to look at the way that I behaved as like this incredibly horrible, toxic behavior, which it was. Like it has its own container for that. But it also is an amazing thing for me to look back on and be like, okay, dissect that. Like, why did you behave in that way? Like, why weren't you able to feel in that way? And I think for me, like the whole entire time, like I was longing to feel like I wanted to belong to someone. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to feel nurtured. But I couldn't feel that for myself, right? At all. Like there was just nothing going on. It was like this vessel of just numb all the time. And so I would search for things externally, right? Which is like a huge thing that I say to women now is that if you are looking outside of yourself for the answers, you will never ever find them. You will just run around in circles forever. And that's what I was doing, right? And it would come in the form of, you know, taking a lot of drugs. And again, that was a way to switch off the things that I was feeling and to, you know, feel that moment of love and connectedness and happiness, you know, even though I knew that it would also follow with this deep, dark sadness. And then in men and even women, I searched for that attention, you know, so I was extremely sexually active. I used a lot of like my like sexual energy, I guess, to sort of like lure the masculine, which is what we talk about now, like the feminine and masculine energies. And this is like the shadow feminine, right? Like I make sure I tell women as well all the time, and even men, like we can both act in the shadow. And like I know, Josh, like you went through your own stuff.
Oh yeah.
And same with me, you know, and I almost had like this inability to feel for anybody else, you know, and so I hurt a lot of people in the process, you know, lots of friends, lots of men that were really good to me, you know, but it was like almost a game. It was like I wanted them to feel as shit as I was feeling.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think I listened to the last podcast you were on, and I think it was a little bit skewed off the rails. The lady you were talking to, brilliant. I listened to a few more of her podcasts, but I think there's an element where it's like a go girl type thing. You know what I mean? And I think there's a bit of neglect in terms of like it was damaging.
Totally.
But when you say it was a game, I think I can relate to that pretty easily, because once again, I think I hit that point too, where it was a game. Like guys do the exact same thing. It's like, and I think it's just to cover insecurities, right? So it's like, how many girls can you sleep with? And you'll do it regardless of who they are. It doesn't fucking matter. But then it goes beyond like who can you sleep with in terms of girls? It's like is she married?
I loved that one.
You know what I mean? Is she surrounded by her friends? Like you have to up the ante each time. It's like a bragging right, but it's just that bragging right to cover the fact that you feel like dog shit.
Oh, well, I think it's just like you're incredibly empty, right? And so it just like adds another layer to the story.
Well, we're like, I guess at the end of the day, like humans are feeling junkies. We want to feel.
Oh yeah, we love to feel good.
We want to feel good.
Totally.
This is why drugs are prominent. Alcohol is very prominent.
Sex addictions,
and like put anything and then put addiction at the end of it. So we just want that little slice of of escaping what we've created and feeling nothing at all. And it does come in the form of sex as well, where you go, I think leading up to it, once again, you can relate it to any drug. You convince yourself that it's the right thing to do. And then when you're doing it, you're like, this is great. And then it's immediately backed up by feeling horrible.
Yeah, look, I'm going to steer you like slightly over this way, and we can talk about something that relates really well to this, which is like a really good example of how like you can always do too much of something, and even when you think you've healed yourself, always ask yourself again.
That's right. Have a good long hard look in the mirror.
Have a really good look. So I obviously have always, other than when I was married, which I think was like another form of like suppression, right? There was like this huge part of me that was not able to come out, and so it was like adding to like the turbulence of things. But I've always been very sexually open. I've always enjoyed sex. I've always like enjoyed self-pleasure. Like, and I think from a super young age, that was something that was always in my life, you know? And then obviously it turned toxic. However, I thought I'd healed a lot of those wounds, right? Like that need to feel loved and that need to be the best. Being the best is like a huge thing for me. I love to be the best at things. And that comes down to like childhood, right? Anyway, so I thought I had moved through all of this stuff, and my partner and I had this discussion about potentially sleeping with another couple. So like swinging, right? And I was like, yeah, like this is a great idea. Like I love being with women. Like if the other guy is like attractive, this could be really fun. And I had like read and studied about the way in which monogamy can be so fucking damaging. For some people, for some, they really fit it. For others, it's just like trying to squish someone into a container that they're never going to fit into. And I was like, sure, like I've had plenty of threesomes in my life, you know, like it'll be fine. This is a great idea.
And what happened?
Okay, no, it's a great story. And like if the woman and man is listening to this.
Too bad.
No, I'm kidding.
So sad.
No, it's actually so good. So anyway, so we found this couple on like this site, this amazing site that's dedicated to couples in Australia that want to swing. And it's like you pay for it and it's like, it's legit. People, it's good. Anyway, so we find this couple and we're like having this conversation. I'm like, I swear I know them. Like they're like, because you don't show face pictures, right? At this point, it's just like, you know, little chit chat. And my partner was like, no, like you're over exaggerating. Also love to over exaggerate. Don't worry about it. Like it's completely fine. And then we like had arranged to meet up like the next day. Like we were going to have dinner and then like just see where it went. And they sent a face picture. And I literally remember being in the shower when I got this face picture through. And I was like, oh fuck. Oh fuck. And like it was someone that I not only trained with at the gym, but had also taught before. And I was like, look, it's fine. You know, she knows, I know, let's just see.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Look, and
was it fine?
Well, we'll get there. Look, so what I learned about it all was that your body has this ability to tell you things, and we have switched that off through whatever reason, right? And if you've suffered from trauma, there is this huge gap between your body, your mind, your spirit. It's hard to put things back together because it feels empty in places, right? And I believe that, you know, I have quite a good intuition, but at times I don't fucking listen because I'm stubborn. And I felt like my whole body was going, don't do this. This is a terrible idea. Like, you're not ready for this. This is...
Shouldn't have done it.
Shut the fuck up, Josh. Anyway, so we walk into this setting and, like, the energy was just that of anxiety, right? Like, you could see everyone was just, like, uncomfortable, but they were quite experienced swingers. So, like, they kind of knew how this was going to go, right? Like, whereas we were very new to this game. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, consumed a whole shit ton of alcohol, terrible idea, went to do what we thought was going to be fantastic, absolutely terrible. No, like, for the listeners, I didn't end up having sex with the other partner. I kind of did stuff with the female, and my partner was not into it at all. Like, he was like, this is so shit. Anyway, so we lovingly said bye, the end, right? Then a week later, we're like sitting down having dinner, and I was like, they've invited us over again. Like, should we go? And again, that message from my body was like, probably don't do this again. This is a terrible idea. It was terrible the first time. Don't do it now.
Yeah.
And so we went back again, except this time we didn't consume alcohol. So I had nothing stopping me from feeling all of the things.
Yeah.
And like, this has gone from a really funny story to like, it was quite terrifying. I watched my partner like penetrate this other woman, and my whole body shut down. Like, I couldn't move. I was just laying there like, what is happening, you know? And it was like an anxiety response as well. Like, I froze in that moment. It was too much. Like, it was just like, oh my God, what's happening right now? You know, I can't stand here and see him do that, but I also can't fucking move. I can't say anything. So I remember sort of like rolling off to the side and just like sitting on the edge of the bed. And it was like my whole entire soul had just like left me. Like, it was my body's way of trying to protect me in that moment. And thankfully, like, my partner realized, and we sort of brought it back and like called it off.
Yeah.
But what followed all of that was like this whole new unlearning of everything I thought that I'd healed. No, you know, like, it was all these little wounds that I'd like sort of like put a Band-Aid on and been like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I'm, you know, spiritually enlightened now, and I'm this, and I understand that. And like, that is where like this spiritual community is fucked at times, is because it's like, well, just because you do yoga and meditate does not mean you fucking understand yourself. It does not mean you. And so sometimes I cringe, and I'm just like, oh, just because you do those things doesn't mean you have all the answers.
Yeah, I think that like that really relates to this feeling junkie thing. Like, we want to feel good all the time. So when the Band-Aid thing is perfect. I use a box as an analogy, and I always use like the center of your body, because that's where you feel anxiety the most, and that's where you keep that little fucking box.
Totally.
And people are very terrified to fucking open it because they don't want to feel it.
No.
Until they're in a position where they have to feel it,
and like,
their body
and maybe
goes, "What the fuck?"
And hopefully
dude?
that's not in a situation when you're swinging.
When your partner's smashing somebody else, and you're like, "Oh, this is what it's like." And now I'm feeling all of it. The box is fucking open.
Yeah, look. Yeah.
But I think there's a problem with that, like, across the board. Males get it a lot, and I'm not saying that females don't. I'm just talking it from my perspective. The whole like man up type thing.
Totally.
And I think that's it. Like, I still see it today. I see a lot of people, especially my old friends and stuff, still doing that whole like, just fucking bury it. Just put it in that little box and just fucking leave it there. And nobody really wants to sit in the, whatever you want to call it, pain.
Totally.
Nobody wants to sit in the anxiety of it. They just want to fuck it off until shit like that happens. But do you think it was like that anxiety that pushed you towards it? You know what I mean? Do you think it was like a needed thing for you to go through?
I mean, yeah. I think that there was like a huge lesson behind it all. You know, I have always been a people pleaser, you know, and that, like, I think you would relate to that as well. People that have like high functioning anxiety, going back again to being the best, or being like, you know, praised for your work, and like really wanting that. Yeah, I mean, I think the universe truly pushed me into that situation to see, because I was very unaware of all of those things that still existed for me. And a huge one that I understood from it all, like the biggest lesson, was that I have a serious abandonment issue. Yeah. Huge, right? And that like stems back from being a child. But I think as well, what that taught me is that wound was the reason for everything else I've ever done, you know? Yeah, it was interesting.
It's a crazy experience, and I think the issue with this is like, whoever listens to this is hearing she went to swinging. You know what I mean? Rather than hearing, like, everyone looks at the action.
Totally.
Rather than what caused it, you know what I mean? Nobody ever, you know, I think that is because there's a bit of self-reflection. If you look at somebody leading up to it, and you acknowledge it, there has to be a bit of responsibility on whoever's in to accept it. So I think it's a shame. It's a real fucking shame that
Mm.
like even like you getting to that point, that was your path, that was your journey that got you to a certain point. It's completely overlooked by people. Just hear sex and they freak out.
Yeah, I think like people are starting, you know, I believe the world is going in the right direction. Like I hope by the time my children are my age, they can sit here and it's just like a normal conversation to be like proud and open to talk about sex. Like we all have sex, and if we're not having sex, we're fucking miserable.
100%.
Like, and so like if you're listening to this and there is like that sense of judgment inside your body, like look at yourself and ask yourself what it is that I've just said that has triggered a reaction in you.
And then go fuck yourself.
And that would be amazing because self-pleasure is really good for the soul.
It'll make you feel better. Knock a load off. Take some off the top and get back out there.
Do you know what else is really interesting? And I'm not blaming any past lovers because it hasn't been very many that this has actually happened. But I was reading a study a little while ago that was saying that every woman that has been ejaculated in, the DNA from those men, there's a tiny little bit of it that remains in her forever. And it's like, I'm not too sure, like, A, that that's true, but B, if it is, fuck, you know?
I think it's one of those things, like, yeah, there could be, like, an element left over, but the impact of it would probably be so little. I think the damaging thing about those types of things is, like, if you read, like, I've experienced this a lot as well, especially with my family. They go to a doctor and they go, like, tell me your symptoms. They go, here's my symptoms. And they go, well, it could be this, this, and this. And they go, that's what I've got.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problem with, like, I think there needs to be a little bit more, whether it's true or not. Like, I don't know. Don't let people jizz in you. I don't know.
Okay, Josh.
What is it? Isn't maybe that the point of it?
It's the safest
Like,
thing to do. But what I'm saying is, I think as well, women naturally through sex, and like this is something for like men to bear in mind. And it's again, if like there's male listeners, it's probably going to bring like a restriction in their body hearing this.
Oh yeah.
But for women, sex is an entirely different thing at times. And I say that because women are penetrated. So something is physically entering our body. So there is this sense of surrender. There has to be, or it will not work. I mean, you could force it and see how that goes. You have to have the ability to let go. And it's extremely fucking vulnerable. Even with women that are still, you know, incredibly in tune with their bodies and sexually open and blah, blah, blah. It's a really big deal. And so I pose this. I believe firmly that all men at some point in their lives must be penetrated by their partner.
Stick something in your bum.
Look, it is amazing. Like, I mean, I'm not a man, but I know that it is good for the soul. But what I'm saying is because for a man to be penetrated, he then has to drop into the feminine, and you also have to surrender and let the fuck go. And it can be incredibly healing for a man to be penetrated.
I think there's like you were saying, I think there's a little bit maybe before that. I think maybe have a better discussion with your partners.
Oh,
especially
absolutely.
women. Like men like to play sex off like it doesn't impact them, and it definitely does.
It totally does. I think it's just not spoken about as much.
But then there's also like this fucking weird stigma that we carry over from fucking like 800 years ago that like, you know, women, you have one partner.
Oh yeah, it's just
and
a
guys can have multiple. You know what I mean? And there's always that fact that like women who sleep around are sluts, guys who sleep around are legends. Guys really need to get that shit out of their head first. I remember I was asked once, would you date a stripper? And I was like, yeah, like it wouldn't bother me. And they're like, oh my God, and this is from another guy. And he was like, that's funny. Disgusting. I was like, why is it disgusting, man? He's like, explain to me how. He's like, because there's all those guys.
I mean, it's his own wounds, really speaking, right there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I was like, if they're a good person, doesn't fucking matter. Like, don't be such a fucking child about it.
When Josh and I knew each other, I was dabbling in that world. So I did a few little stints in strip clubs. It was never really my thing. Like, I didn't overly enjoy it in that setting. But I used to do a lot of bucks parties. So I'd go and either be in like a lingerie waitress or like a topless waitress. And like, I enjoyed it for the wrong reasons. Again, it came back to that attention and you were like the center of their universe. And I said this on the last podcast, and it was like, for me, I saw men when they didn't have any fear, right? And like that veil for them was dropped. And so for women, like, I think it's really challenging at times to understand how the male psyche works. But for me, it was like I could see both sides. I could see how men were around women, and I could also see how they were when they were presented with, you know, pleasure, essentially.
The carrot in front of the donkey type thing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember hearing your podcast and you were like, men are willing to dump it all.
Correct.
I don't disagree.
Okay, good. I thought you were about to disagree with me, and I was like, Josh, I don't really want to fucking argue with you.
But I think it's human nature. I think back when I was doing it, there was a challenge of go get the girl with a boyfriend.
Totally. I used to have the same thing.
Go get the girl who's married.
Yeah.
And they would.
Yeah.
And they would quite easily.
Yeah.
And quite readily. I think there's an aspect of panic. There's an aspect of power.
Oh, it's like the taboo thing as well, right?
I think there's like maybe, especially with, you can't speak for all, but you can apply it to certain couples where the marriage is starting to dry up a little bit, and there's that aspect of like you want to feel special, you want to feel needed. I'm just going to go out with the girls, or I'm just going to go out with the boys. You know what I mean? And like it's a lack of communication in their own relationship, so they go out, and then as soon as you give them that little bit, like it's fucking game over. And then I think what you're saying in terms of like being able to read it, I think that comes from, I remember having a conversation to somebody. I was in Switzerland having a chat with some random dude at a pub, and I was fucked at this stage. And I think it was a good realization for me. It was a good realization. I was like, I grew up really rough, and I really got into my childhood. And I told him about all the abuse and everything I went through. And he's like, well, what do you carry from it now? And I was like, there's a bit of anxiety, but I was like, the biggest thing that I take from it is like, I can read people very fucking well. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you know, I think you have to grow up incredibly quickly. So you learn, especially when there's physical violence and there's sexual violence, you learn to read people's face. You learn to read their mannerisms, and you learn all of that. And I definitely applied that when I was running amok. I could see when somebody wasn't interested, and I knew if there's like a little gap in that, I knew I could get in, and I'd just fucking go for it. You know what I mean? And I knew if they were fully interested, I could tell fucking everything. Like I picked it up so goddamn quickly. Was it like that for you? Like, was there a bit of that, like, it becomes more like a game, but then you watch, like, I think I heard you say, like, your friend wanted to do it too, but just wasn't quite there.
It's complete, yeah. Look, and again, I feel like always this, like, resistance to talk too much about this, because I think it can be taken, like, out of context, and it can, yeah. But anyway, we will go down that path. Yeah, I think my main thing was that I believed that I understood human beings really well.
Yeah.
And I think like that is what it comes down to, right? And you can argue that forever, you know, like how much does anyone actually understand human beings? But for me, it was like, it was just effortless because I could read their bodies. I could understand what they were saying. I could almost feel their emotions, which I think has turned into something that's beautiful now as a yoga teacher. Like I have that ability to feel them. I think a lot of it was forced as well for me and fake, you know, just to see the reaction that they were going to give as well.
Yeah, but that's exactly, I think that's the back end of it. So I can switch off really well. And I can still do it now. Like I can just go, I'm done, I'm finished. It's not a good trait, but it's there. And it's something that it's like, I remember having a conversation with some friends that were over, and I was like, I can't feel guilt. I never feel guilt. I can understand right and wrong, and a lot of people, like you said, they can misconstrue it in any way they fucking want. And you know, he's an asshole. He doesn't think about other people. I do, but now it's like I acknowledge the fact that it could hurt somebody, so I don't. But it's like if I was to do something, there's zero guilt attached to it, and it's just that it's the brain really like that point is dead. It's gone. It's not me not wanting to. It's just it's over years and years of abuse.
Totally. Yeah.
It's fucking gone. It doesn't exist anymore. A funny thing you mentioned is that the way it's taken, and like I think it keeps coming back to this because people are going to listen, and I think it's just going to be attached immediately to old Josh and Sarah. You know what I mean?
That's totally fine. I welcome that. In fact.
Well, the good thing about it now, I think what a lot of people maybe, and fuck those people. Like, they're over there. Get rid of them. I think there's a lot of people who've been through similar situations or going through situations like us that need to understand that there is an upside to all of this.
Totally.
You can understand people better, and you can do it in the right way rather than just always being a brick. You know what I mean? I think we have better understandings of ourselves than most other people. We can communicate emotionally better than other people as well. I think there's definitely all of that attached
Which
to it.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, I guess.
I always find it very funny because I just, like, going back to what you said about having, like, the inability almost to feel things, like, back then. And I was exactly the same. Like, I could do horrendous things, and I knew that I was hurting people, and I actually just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And, like, people say, oh, I don't care. But then, like, deep down they feel something. And it's like, I was so empty. Like, there was nothing there. I didn't have guilt. I didn't have shame. Like, sometimes I would cry and I would feel like I was almost forcing my body to do it because I was like, shit. Should I be crying?
You got to do something.
Yeah.
Do something.
And I think it's like I was disassociating all the time as well. I would, like, leave my body, which I didn't realize I was doing at the time, but I was like, this is too much, and switch off right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I think another thing that we probably need to clear up, because we did go, like, we didn't feel anything to, like, we could switch it off. We felt like shit. And then we could switch it off. The feeling like shit is a hangover.
Oh yeah.
It's not attached to anyone or anything. It's just that you're missing that fucking high. You're missing that dopamine rush in your brain.
So then you go and fuck somebody else, and then you're like, oh, I feel even more empty now.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
It's just it's just the hangover of it all. But once again, the feelings that should usually be attached to them, for me, they didn't really exist. And like I said, I noticed it today. But I think I have better direction now. I know how to apply it rather than just blanketing feelings, which I used to do. It was just easy to go, I don't want to feel anything. I allow myself to feel joy now.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, Josh.
Do you, Sarah?
I think that's, of course. Of course. I think, like, it will be a forever journey. Like, I think, like, I always say to my students as well, like, I'm like a teacher, but I'm also a student.
Yeah.
And, like, that applies in life as well. I will never sit here and be like, oh, and I know everything about this and I understand myself to a T, because truth is I could walk out this door right now and a situation could confront me and I just crumble to the shit. And so it's like, fuck off. Like, people that think that they know everything or know themselves or understand themselves on this deep, amazing layout, like, I challenge that. Truly.
Yeah, it's you never know what's going to hit you.
No.
One fucking I got it. I think that once again there is a sense of arrogance. I think you on the spiritual side and me, like, studying psychology, there's definitely an arrogance when it comes to academia. And I think psychology is the worst fucking course to study because people always think you're looking into the shit. You know what I mean? Every time I'm, like, studying psychology, like, what am I thinking? Like, I'm not a psychic, you idiot. I'm a psychic. Like, or they're like, you're trying to analyze me, or you're trying to do this.
Yeah.
And I think, once again, it definitely comes from, do you find it with, like, the same thing with, like, the spiritual side? You start to talk to somebody about it and they're like, no, I got to figure it out.
Look, I have definitely come across people like that. Fortunately for me, it's not as many. What I find is challenging is people that don't have a spiritual element in their lives. And I do truly believe that everybody needs to have something, even like a gratitude practice, or sit on the lounge and drink your coffee mindfully, or look outside and, appreciate what you see. I'm not telling you to go sit on, the floor and meditate for 6 hours or go to a silent retreat. I don't think that's entirely necessary for everybody. For some people, it really is necessary for their journey, But I think it's people that don't have that practice and then try and come up against it, and find its flaws. And I'm just like, really? Like, are you sure?
It's definitely funny. Like, it's funny watching those people trying to, like, comprehend it themselves. It's easier for them to go, it's shit, it doesn't work, without trying it.
We've had that conversation about meditation, Josh.
Yeah, I tried. I started.
I know. It's so funny.
I started.
I know. He probably did it for like 5 minutes and then gave up.
I do 10 minutes a day.
Do you?
Every day?
Every day.
Yeah, see, that's
except for
amazing.
when I go away. I didn't do it last weekend.
Yeah. I think it's about trying to find a way that you can put it into your life that's not super challenging. Like, it doesn't feel like another chore, right? And so, yeah, look, I think meditation can get a bad rap sometimes.
I think it's like one of those things like exercise. You do it once or twice, you're like, my body hurts or it doesn't work or I'm not seeing immediate results.
Totally, so you stop.
Fucking see you later. I
Yeah,
don't, like,
same
why would I
thing.
waste 10 minutes of my life doing it? Or why would I waste
Yeah.
30 minutes at the gym doing it when I
Yeah.
can sit in front of the TV?
Yeah, look, and even as a like a meditation and yoga teacher myself, I have had moments where I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that takes strength as well to admit things like that.
Yeah.
Because it fucking sucks sometimes. Like, especially if you're holding a really strong emotion and you sit there and you're like, okay, let's feel this. And it's like, fuck, I don't want to feel this. And again, it goes back to the thing. We like to feel fucking good. Like, we are creatures of pleasure. And when we don't feel good, we try to grab something, usually phone, to try and fill that void. And I am like the best at that, even as a teacher.
Yeah, like like you said, you never stop it. We live in the society that we created, which is easy access to fucking everything now, and it's easy to find another partner. It's easy to find another TV show to watch. It's easy, you know what I mean? So like all these old traditions sort of go out the window. But then once again, it's immediately backed up by people who are super tight, super anxious, super going, you guys are idiots. And you're like, fuck you.
You'll deal with that as a psychologist, I'm
how
sure,
does that
Josh.
feel? Yeah, but I think like me stepping into psych is going to be a little different. I don't know how I'm going to approach it, but I don't. Psychology is incredibly rigid. Like I said, I think as you might find with some of these spiritual leaders who are just they've got a grasp of this and they're like, fuck it, this is all I can do because if I step out, it's scary and I'm fucking stuck here. It's no different for academia in any sense of the word, where it's you become fucking rigid as you get older. You don't want to change it because it's fucking scary. You're like, I've finally got my life to settle. I don't want to fucking rock the boat. I don't want to do that. That's why I started like this in the first place. It's like getting people on that. One, I don't understand, or two, other people don't understand.
Totally.
And to be able to go like, hear other people raw. Listen to them as a human. Don't listen to the things that they say so much. Like, pick up on their vibe. And once again, I think psychology is very big on like, I've seen many psychs. Many. And they're all the fucking same. Not all of them. There's some very good ones out there. It's very hard to blanket under the same. But they're there for a paycheck and they just want to go, what happened in your past? And you tell them, like, how does that make you feel? And you're like, not very good.
Obviously shit. That's why I'm
Like,
here.
What do I do? And they're like, you should think about it some more. And you're like, I've had 30 years to think about it.
And it's like snowballing.
Yeah, so I don't want to become that. I definitely don't want to become that old fucking dude in a sweater,
No.
you know, sitting on the lounge and you're like just drawing in your little notepad because you're fucking bored out of your brain.
I think like something as well that like my partner has seen a lot of psychologists in his past as well, you know, and hopefully like one day you can sit down and have a chat 'cause it's interesting.
You can come. He can come whenever he wants.
And you know, some of the things that he's gone through recently, there is this old part of me that's just like, oh, this is too much. Like you need to go and talk to someone that's like a professional, right? And I, you know, have said that to him and he's just like, you know, the thing that's lacking with these psychologists, right, is like love. And it sounds ridiculous, but it's like, it's the truth, you know?
Depth.
Totally. And connection and understanding. And I think that's why as like a yoga and meditation teacher, you meet more people in a vulnerable setting there than you do in a psychologist's office because there is no love there.
Yeah, I think I remember talking to Kai. So Kai's gone through transition and he's had the same issue in terms of speaking to people. There's no fucking depth to them at all. So it's like, I think as a psych and especially as you might feel this as well, when people, I found it as a trainer. I saw a lot of trainers go through this too, who get too close to their clients, and they take too much.
Going.
They take too much.
Did you know who popped into my mind just there?
Yeah, he'll listen. I know you were.
Hello. No, I'm kidding.
You take too much on and it fucks you up.
Totally.
So I think a lot of psychs just do the same thing that we did. I don't want to feel nothing. And then when you stop feeling something, like how do you give good advice to somebody who needs it when you're not willing to feel? You know what I mean? I think the setting that you're talking about is perfect because it enables people to feel things. Like
Totally.
it makes it okay. Do you have a lot of people cry there? Is that fun? I still can't handle people crying.
Really?
Can't do it. I almost cried the other day, like
That's so funny.
at Campbell's wedding,
Oh.
and I ran away.
Campbell got married.
That was like my
That's
thing.
Madness.
I cry, I run.
I know, you're like, no one see my emotion.
like,
I
get
need to
the
get
fuck out.
I need to get
Like,
out of here.
I was like,
yeah, I get it. I
beeline
know
me for
that
the back.
feeling. I mean, look, yoga
Ain't no bitch.
toxic masculinity. Excellent.
Tough as shit. Men
I
don't
don't
cry.
cry.
Fucking straight to the gym to do some bench press instead.
Jesus Christ. Look, I have had less people cry in a class than you would think.
Yeah.
But you know, certain poses are designed to create an energetic feeling in the body, and like it's a beautiful thing to watch someone that you know is, you know, holding themselves in this stone, and then all of a sudden you know where to put them, and it's just like a gush. Like we call it like the dam of the heart, you know, like it opens, and it sounds ridiculous, but you know, I've seen both grown men and women, especially in pigeon pose, which is like a hip opener, and just bawl, you know, just out of nowhere. And yeah, like we hold shit in our bodies. I remember reading this amazing book called The Body Keeps the Score. I don't know if you've read it.
No.
Read it, or I'll bring it to you to read. And it's
Please.
like this amazing psychiatrist that has been studying the way in which the body holds on to trauma. So like in the bones, in the blood, in the tissue. And, you know, one of the main reasons I was drawn to it is because of the huge amount of study he did on yoga on his patients, because he was finding that medication just wasn't enough. It was actually, in some cases, making things fucking worse.
Medication is horrible.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's usually the first thing that GPs will put you on, you know.
Yeah, fucking don't get me started. I had this conversation with everybody, and I think GPs they're good, but they're general practitioners.
Totally.
They're general.
Totally.
Stop going to them for fucking psych advice.
Look, what's really scary, I think, as well, is like the lack of education around medication and like mental health issues. And so for me, like I spent 12 months convinced that there was something other than a mental health issue going on with me, because my anxiety manifested in such a physical way. So really dizzy, really tight chest, beating heart. I'm like, holy fuck, I either have a brain tumor or like my heart's about to stop. And anyone with anxiety knows that like the tiniest little bit of the dial that switches to something that's not entirely normal, you're like, I'm dead. This is all over. This is where I die.
Yeah.
Well, for me, that's where it goes. It's quite amusing now. But at the time, every time something happened, that dial is switched up.
Yeah.
And so the first thing she did was put me on an SSRI. Didn't tell me any of the side effects, basically was just like, this will fix you, go see a psychologist.
Yeah.
And basically I was on that for 2 years, quite a high dose of sertraline, which is intense.
Yeah.
And I came off it with the help of my naturopath, actually. However, coming off a medication that's supposedly going to save your life is like what I could imagine coming off heroin would be like. And it was fucked.
Yeah, so there's definitely, like, I remember, like, I've spoken to a lot of people about this, actually. SSRIs are just meant to regulate your system, to bring it back to normal. And people...
Debatable.
But well, no, here's the thing. It's like you see people do it with pain pills.
Totally, yeah.
My back hurts. Doctor, what do I do? Here's some fucking...
Switch it off. They love to tell you to switch it off.
Switch it off.
Yeah.
But they don't go, you should go to physio and fix it and then wean yourself off it. Because then what happens, you start to become...
There's a reliance. Totally.
And then you get used to the drug and you start taking more and more. And people think it doesn't apply to your brain.
Oh
does.
my God.
It fucking does.
Yeah, well, for like 7 days straight, I was like, I had intense vertigo, which is also a really common side effect, but they don't tell you about that.
Yeah.
I had the sweats, like hot and cold all day. My body ached. Like if I wasn't in the bath in magnesium, I was literally laying down like, this is too much. And then what happens is you aren't feeling good. So what's the easiest way to feel good is to take the fucking medication again.
To feel nothing. Yeah.
Correct. And so it's just like, not only now have I had to teach myself again how to cope and how to feel my anxiety, like I also had to withdraw from, you know, what felt like a fucking opioid.
Yeah,
Like
but to be
and
fair, it's
yeah.
not fucking far off in a sense that like
totally.
anything that you take to adjust your brain, once again, you can apply it to your body and you get, you know, if you take endone, I know a couple of people have been addicted to endone and they take more and more. And then when they stop, they feel like shit. Their body feels horrible. And it's like, why would you do that to your brain? Like the fucking thing that runs your whole body. And you're like, I'm going to take more and more and then stop. But once again, it does come down to lack of education from GPs.
Yeah.
GPs, like, I remember going to a GP once and he's like, you are on your BMI overweight. And I was like, fuck you, because you're fat. Like, who are you? Like, I got really offended. And he was like, you got to lose some weight. And I was like,
Josh.
I was like, fuck you. You know what I mean? I was like,
We hate that.
but it's just, I think you got to look at it from their perspective where it's like, they see fucking like 80 people a day. How much do you really want to sit down and listen to 80 people?
Oh, you don't. And you don't have the ability to do that.
Like, you
know.
go in, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know, I'm not feeling right. Here's something.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even get the full thing out. Like, my knee kind of hurts. Here's something. Like, what's wrong with the knee? Like, what have you done? And it's, but then there's so much more attached to it now. There's like, how many people use it incorrectly? How many people are using it to get fucking a day off work? How many people are just using it because they are reliant? You know what I mean? Especially with SSRIs, like, to switch your brain off is great. Especially if you do have high anxiety and you do have high stress and you've got this fucking job that you need to go to and you've got kids and you're like, if I just get fucking through it by switching everything off, I think
It'll
like,
feel better. Yeah.
like, I used to do it with drinking. I used to do it with drugs.
Oh, yeah, me too.
The same fucking thing. It's just
Yeah.
one you get from a doctor, the other you get from your friends.
Yeah, look, it's all an interesting thing.
Yeah, I think there will be in the future, there will be a better connection between what you do and what I will be doing.
Totally.
There
Yeah.
fucking has to
Yeah.
be. Once all these old, rigid, dusty ass fucking people sort of go away with their super rigid thinking with how they think shit works,
Yeah.
and like new people come in, I think they'll start to work together a little better. Like even now, I think they've only just done a thing where they're like, all right, if you got depression, you should exercise.
I mean, yeah. Wild.
It took them fucking years to come up with.
Maybe moving your body would be a really good idea if you feel like shit.
Maybe leave your house.
Maybe make your bed. Maybe look at sunlight.
It's so
It's
stupid.
fucked.
So I got Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life, and I
Cool.
know people are going to hear this and go, "He's a cunt."
I've never read the book. Now I feel like I should.
He's a little old, but some of his points are incredibly valid. I think he's very well known for the gender pay gap, which we're not going to do.
Have you talked to a feminist yet? Have you got someone on the
I'm
show?
trying to, but
Hilarious. I can't wait until you do.
there just needs to be a bit of understanding, and I think as feminists are just going to go, he's a white male. Like, catch you later. Like, what would he know about suffering?
Feminists are interesting because it's like the very thing that you're critiquing is exactly what you're doing, and it's fucking hilarious.
But there's damage to it. Like
Yeah.
I said, even speaking to Kyle, I was like, "Do you guys have overhelpers like for your your cause?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "What do they do?" And he's like, "They fuck things up much worse than they're helping by being. They've gone too far. They've overcompensated for the lack of But I think there's a couple of feminists that I know, and it's good. There needs to be a sense of equality, especially in terms of. There is a bit of a pay gap, and there is, like, once again, the mistreatment in terms of how women are looked at with sex and how women are looked at in terms of emotion.
Totally.
I think that shit needs to be buffed out. But then there's the really, really staunch ones that are like, men are the problem of everything.
Which is not the case at all.
Yeah, men, like, I've heard this. I haven't seen it. White males, they don't know struggle.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
I would literally love to debate that. I know so many white males that just struggle city.
Yeah, but this is coming from people who haven't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
like, I grew up with both my parents and we grew up really well and I'm educated and I'm fighting for the cause. And you're like, you're being a cock.
Mm.
You once again, you're ruling out humans as people and you're just going, I'm just going to
Totally.
separate us from them to make myself a little better.
And we love that. But that person feels really good, right? So they're going to keep chasing that. And here we go.
Circle
Yeah.
of life. Just fucking feeling junkies. We're out there trying to look good, feel good every day,
Yeah.
and we're fucking failing.
I think we're doing all right.
Do you?
I think so.
I think it's gotten much worse.
I mean, maybe. Or maybe it's getting much better.
Is it?
Maybe.
Do you find it? Are your classes getting bigger? Do you have a lot of young people in your class?
It depends where I'm teaching, you know, in what sort of like demographic is being targeted, I think. I'm not going to say some of the places that I work at, just, you know,
Yeah, of course.
because, but they will attract a much younger crowd. But, you know, that crowd I notice as well has an inability to close their eyes or to want to breathe and have their breath be heard. Like it's almost like uncomfortable, you know, I think, you know, people that are, you know, even 5 or 6 years younger than myself are still really struggling to sit with themselves. So yeah, like I think that I think it could go both ways.
Yeah, well, I think there's always going to be. I think there's going to be like a 60% in the middle of people that are comfortable and they're great, and there's going to be.
And when you say young, how young do you mean?
I think from like the recent studies that are coming out, like depression is getting younger and younger.
Oh,
and
totally.
it's getting worse, especially for young females. It's really bad due to social media, I think.
Totally, like their expectation on themselves.
Yeah, that's right. And they're living it like before they're even out of school, they have this fucking crazy expectation of what life is. And it's like, have a Ferrari and a mansion and just flash some
And a
tits.
killer bod.
Yeah. Have a big bum and that's your life.
Yeah. I mean, a little while ago, I was teaching a program that I'd like specifically designed for teenage girls in some of the Canberra schools. And it was just like insanely rewarding and beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I do. And like, look, I taught the boys to an extent as well. Boys that age are so funny. Like I'm talking like 15 and 16-year-olds. Like they're
pricks.
so fun. No, they were really good for me.
The little pricks.
No, they were so well behaved.
And I mean that in such a nice way, though.
They were excellent. And do you know what I found really funny was that the girls were less able to connect with themselves than the boys were. The boys had this ability to walk into the room, to sit down and to listen and to feel. You know, they would close their eyes. They weren't afraid to breathe. They would like listen to my instructions and breathe, like, and move their bodies. Whereas the girls, like I remember one of the strangest things that I witnessed was no one would take off their fucking socks. And I was like, what do you, like,
Because they got ugly feet.
right? And I was like, okay, you know, you do yoga in bare feet, right? And they're like, no,
No, just going to do it.
wait. I'm just going to slip all over the mat. And it's crazy because these girls were like almost getting into these like fits of anxiety over taking off fucking socks.
But what does that say?
Wild.
Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's, and this is another thing. If they feel that way about their feet, like
That's
in all
right.
seriousness, imagine how they feel about their vagina or like their breasts or their body. It's like, it's crazy, you know, and like this world has done that to them.
Yeah, we're in like a weird group. I see anybody older than me. I guess everybody's gonna do this, though, right? They're gonna think they're like old fashioned and rigid. Like I think our generation is that one that's like a little bit better adjusted. I remember having a conversation with my dad about it, and I was like, "Your generation was fucked, and anything before it was." And I was like, because they grew up with the whole "don't be a pussy." You know what I mean?
So damaging for men.
It's fucking hella damaging.
So damaging.
I remember the first time, like one of my exes was like, "Be a man," and I fucking flipped it. I was like, "What does that mean? Like, what is your expectation of a man where I can't say that I'm not okay?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Just suck it up." I was like, "You're a bitch."
How'd that relationship go?
Fuck her.
Amazing. Yeah. I think it's like, again, that's just like toxic feminine energy, toxic masculine energy.
It applies to
Again,
both.
you know,
But I think our generation now, I still suffer with it. like I said, every time I go to cry, I run away. Like I literally run.
What do you do? Like, okay, if you feel sad, like
Like,
if
I
you
feel
feel
like
like an emotion, what do you do?
I feel it come up.
Okay, and then what do you do?
And I go, fuck that.
Okay, great. That's so good.
But it's not like I don't let myself feel things, but I think I sit in other negative energy. I sit in anxiety a lot. I'll sit in it.
It's
and
like a
I'll-
dullness, right?
Yeah.
Well,
and
for me.
I like to sit in it. I like to absorb it and feel what it is.
Cool.
Like get why am I like this? Why am I feeling like this? But sadness is just like, it's that, I think that is broken.
Sadness and despair is an interesting emotion to feel, you know.
Well, I wasn't allowed to cry as a child.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
You know what I mean?
feel like my son loves a good cry. I'm like, get it, babe. You get those tears
Fucking
out.
get them out of your body. They're
Right?
not
I'm
meant to
like,
be in
you
there.
are, yeah.
Your body wants them
Okay,
out.
I would
Get it
debate
out.
that. But yes, I'm glad that he feels safe to let them out. But all men should, you know, and women as well.
Yeah, that's right. But I think there's like, there's still that aspect of like, you know, boys shouldn't cry, you know?
Yeah, it's old.
Yeah, it's still being passed down, but I think once again we have a better ability to understand it now because we have open forums about it. Like we can have discussions where it's like it's okay. If you need to cry, just get it out. You know, don't be a bitch and cry all the time.
Okay, that is so like Josh. Jesus.
I'm in the middle. I told you I'm the changing
I
one,
know.
but have a cry when you need to. Just
It's
don't cry over spilt milk.
Unless it's breast milk. And that's devastating when that happens.
Don't know. I don't know that. But, you know, take care of business, cry when you need to. I think that's fair. Is it?
I mean, yeah. You're telling the story, psychologist.
Sort of I'm just unpacking how I should feel.
What I think
Josh, cry
is like, okay,
sometimes,
look,
but
so
don't
we
cry
can
all the
have
time.
we can have Josh's opinion on it, which is like quite classic Josh. It's like quite hard, you know, like which is nice. I think some people would relate to that. They're like, okay, good. But like another thing that I think has worked for myself and like the students that I teach is like giving yourself permission to feel.
I think that's different. I think people, I don't know, it's weird. Crying is just an action, right? It's just a
Can
reaction
feel
to you.
really good.
But you can cry when you're happy as well.
Correct, but
know
it
what I
also
mean?
can feel really good. I mean, at Campbell's wedding, didn't you say you cried? Oh my
went
God,
to.
did Campbell cry?
You went to. We don't allow it. That's for pussies. No, but I think it's just a reaction, and to be honest, I think I'd rather sit. Once again, it's something that's ingrained in you from a child, so you automatically associate crying with something negative. So then, when something positive happens, like the wedding,
The same response happens.
Your
That
brain
running,
goes-
totally.
your
It's not
brain's like-
smart enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you
Did
can.
you run?
I ran. I literally ran away from where I was sitting.
Like, I'm going to run away from these tears, and if I run fast enough, the
Ru-
emotion will.
Outrun my feelings. And then I got my
love
shit
that.
together
How
and
did
I
that
was just
go?
like, just be happy. And I was just happy. So I think crying aside, like guys should be able to, I had a thing where it was like men should make their women feel strong and women should allow their man to be weak. Like obviously this is incredibly broad. But I think if you apply it to general relationships, it's like women just allow your man to go. And I think this was at
Yeah.
the time when I was seeing
This amazing woman.
she was so good.
Yeah, she sounds great.
Oh my God.
I love that for
Mike,
her.
you're very cool after this. Like, fuck you. Why did you do No. Yeah, like allow them to say that they don't like things. I don't like that. It doesn't make me feel good. Like how often do you hear that? And I think men need to go after it. Don't box them in this fucking weak female type thing. Don't judge them for crying because they're doing something you can't.
Yeah.
You know, don't judge them for having, you know, whatever sexual partners. Make them feel strong. I'm sticking to that one. That one's good. I'm going to put it on a t-shirt.
I feel like it's really good. That's like a classic dance of polarity, though. You know, like I think for men, when you are feeling an emotion, like because men are like doers and like women are more like we like to be. You know, we feel things more. We feel it on a deeper level, and so do men, just differently.
Yep.
And so I think, you know, in any relationship, and definitely in like the work that I do, you need to give men the space to feel in that way and to allow them to drop into that, and then hold the fucking space for yourself as a female. Like be like, yes, like my man is feeling these things, you know, because then what will happen is it will just flip back, you know, and he will go back into his masculine, you'll go back into your feminine.
Yeah.
And it's like, just because you're a man doesn't mean you're masculine all the time. And just because you're a female doesn't mean that you're feminine. Like even, you know, like women that are very career driven, that is a very masculine energy, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I think it's just a constant dance, you
But
know.
but even like using that as an example, like a lot of men are threatened by powerful women.
Yeah, because it makes them feel feminine and they don't like that.
Yeah, that's like I have
Yeah.
a friend and she has a very good career. She is very like she's super strong and she's like, I can't find a man.
Oh my God, she needs Anna Rova.
I don't know what that is.
That's the girl I was talking on her podcast. She's like
okay.
a relationship polarity expert. She's amazing.
She's like,
But not really. Like I'm just saying, like
but you know what
yeah.
I mean? And I think, and I had a conversation with her here and I was like, it's this, especially here. I don't know what it is. Sydney is a little bit better, but maybe not. It'll be everywhere. And I was like, one, you're looking in the wrong places. And two, guys here are fucking terrified of it. That a woman could be so fucking powerful.
do you think?
You know what I mean? I think there's definitely aspects of it.
I feel like it would come down to more like her own belief as well. Like if she believes as
think
well that she's unable, then she's like projecting that outwards. Like this is what I'm saying. Like internally you need to do the fucking work or it's just turning into
But
a
that's what
shitstorm.
once again, it doesn't snowball and it just folds in on itself.
Correct,
You know what I
yes,
mean? If
yeah.
you go out and you know, and like, what do you do? And you tell them, they're like, oh, and they move. You immediately, like, you're not going to go, well, that guy's a fuckwit. You go, fuck, what did I do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and then, like, it
that's
just
on both
keeps going,
sides. That's,
totally,
that's not just
yeah.
like a male-female thing. But it's hard for people to accept. You know what I mean? I think that there is still a very strong stigma attached to, like, the man goes to work and the woman doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And
yeah, that's
and
like ingrained in our psyches.
like I've heard it.
yeah.
Like my partner is in a very good job.
Yeah, Josh, what the fuck are you doing?
I'm supporting her. Like she's a weapon, and we've even had the conversation. I was like, there should be no part of me being your partner, whether it be male or female, where I stop you from getting something that you want.
Yeah, like you can't stop her growth.
And I was like, if you're on a win and you're hitting wins and you're doing very well for yourself, and I'm not going to I'm not going to step on your path to prevent you from doing that out of me feeling insecure.
Yeah.
I want you to go the best you can. And I was like, there's one day where it's going to flip. You know what I mean? Like it could slow down for you and it could start to pick up for me. And I just expect the same in return.
Yeah, it's just like the ebb and flow.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I think I got to go. I got a meeting at 3.
And that is how Josh Dunn wraps up a podcast. Thanks for listening.
I was meant to finish at 3:30, but we're doing so well. Come back and hang out.
We can talk
We can do this
sex
weekly.
things.
No, not
Oh my God, we should have like this special little segment where we can just like talk about sex.
we can call people.
Oh my God,
Like
can
call
you
it.
really?
Yeah. I've seen 100%.
Stop
We can
it.
call them. They can call us.
Oh my God.
It's like a radio show.
They can like ring in with their sex questions. I feel like I would love that. That would be the best.
It's like some like 15-year-old and you're like, how do you do it? And you're like, well, just give it a go.
Christ,
Just
Josh.
try it out. Go watch.
Do not watch porn would
I
be
was
my
gonna
first advice. Like, okay, get off your fucking phone. Do not watch porn. Do not watch porn.
Go watch porn and don't do that because that is not what it's like. It is very different from that. Young men out there, you fucking animals.
Yeah.
Imagine being that kind of guy where you're like, this is it. You see it on the internet, those like incels, I think they call themselves, where they're like, I've had no sexual interaction with anybody and I'm 35 and I'm still watching porn. And then like, why won't some girl let me spit in her butthole? And you're like,
Oh my God. Okay, porn is we can have a whole discussion over porn
and you're like,
because
"You
it is
asked that
so
question?"
fucking damaging.
It's so bad. It's bad for everybody. But nobody's going to stop watching it. Let's end it there.
All right, let's end it there.
Bye, everybody. Sarah, do your thing. What are you doing? Where are you at?
Oh, Jesus. Okay, you can find me on Instagram at the Sacred Rebels Collective.
Ooh,
Oh.
I'll tag it anyway. Anywhere else?
No, just there for now.
Just there for now.
Just there for now. We're
Good
just
enough.
trying to work out.
And then if they want to find where your yoga thing is, I guess they can just message you, right?
You can just message me.
Just
The
message.
Canberra local, sure.
100% if you're a Canberra local. If you're not, too bad.
Travel.
Drive. Drive 45, do one class for an hour, drive 45 home.
Yeah.
Treat yourself.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Welcome to the What Are We Doing Here podcast, hosted